Okay, in this chapter we're going to be talking about carbon dioxide and carbonates. So you should realize that carbon dioxide gas is formed from what? There are many processes that release carbon dioxide into the air. For example, complete combustion. We said burning of fossil fuel releases carbon dioxide gas. Also, respiration of living organisms releases carbon dioxide gas into the air. And if you are not doing biology, please be familiar with the definition for respiration. We define respiration as the breakdown of glucose to release energy in body cells or in living cells. So that is the definition of respiration. And you know that glucose is C6H12O6. When it is broken down with the help of oxygen, it forms carbon dioxide and water. Fermentation is another process that releases carbon dioxide, and also you should know the definition of fermentation or what is meant by fermentation. It is the breakdown of glucose using enzymes in the yeast to form carbon dioxide and ethanol. So breakdown of glucose to form ethanol and carbon dioxide in presence of yeast. This is usually done at room temperature. If the ethanol is further exposed to air, then it will become oxidized to ethanoic acid. Now, fermentation reaction, what happens is we put yeast in glucose solution and we leave it for some time. It's a slow process and it gradually changes glucose to ethanol. But at some point the reaction stops, and if we say why the reaction stops, it would stop if the glucose is used up, so no more glucose to be broken, and the fact that accumulation of ethanol in the solution kills the yeast, because ethanol is toxic to the yeast. Okay, the other reactions that give carbon dioxide is, of course, reaction of acid with carbonate. We said any acid with carbonate would give salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. So this is the main method of manufacturing carbon dioxide or making carbon dioxide in the lab. Okay, carbon dioxide, you should realize, is acidic. It's an acidic oxide, and we said before that it is an acidic oxide because when dissolved in water it forms an acid, and remember that this acid formed is called carbonic acid. Also, carbon dioxide is heavier than air, so when it is collected it has to be collected by downward delivery. Remember that we said to collect a gas we can either collect it over water, but we collect it over water if the gas is not soluble in water, and we cannot use that for carbon dioxide because carbon dioxide gas is soluble in water. So if I were to use that first apparatus on top to collect carbon dioxide, very little gas will be collected. That is because carbon dioxide dissolves in water. So we have to use either upward delivery, in which the jar is inverted, or downward delivery, in which the delivery tube goes down. Now, which one do we use? We said we use upward delivery with an inverted gas jar if the gas is lighter than air. But since carbon dioxide is heavier than air, then we use the delivery tube going down, and this method is called downward delivery. Okay, in the lab, how do we prepare carbon dioxide? Of course, we prepare it from reaction of acid with carbonate. So if we say marble chips, you should realize that marble is calcium carbonate with hydrochloric acid. It will form carbon dioxide gas that is collected by downward delivery. Okay, what do we use carbon dioxide for? First of all, we use it to make soft drinks. So all these soft drinks have this acidic taste due to the presence of carbon dioxide gas, and we use it in fire extinguishers. So remember, what is the property that we use when we use carbon dioxide to make soft drinks is the fact that it is an acidic oxide. Now, why do we use carbon dioxide in fire extinguishers? This is because it doesn't burn, it's not flammable, and it is heavier than air, so it settles on the fire and prevents oxygen from reaching the fire. Okay, if you are doing biology at some point, you know what this is. This is a carbon cycle. But if not, then let's go through it. The carbon cycle indicates what happens to carbon in the atmosphere. So for example, where do we have carbon? Mostly we have carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and dissolved in water. Now, what are the processes that release carbon dioxide into the air? We said combustion of fuel, respiration of plants, respiration of animals, and decaying of dead plants and animals. So when dead plants and animals are broken down by bacteria, these bacteria are respiring and they're giving out carbon dioxide. Now, what is the process that takes carbon dioxide from the air? Remember that the only process that absorbs carbon dioxide from the air is the process of photosynthesis in green plants. So if we get rid of green plants, then carbon dioxide will just accumulate in the air and there will be no process to take the carbon dioxide from the air. And then remember that when organisms die, they will decompose, they will form fossil fuels and so on. So this is the cycle of carbon in the atmosphere. Okay, carbonates. You have to realize that all limestone, marble and chalk are different forms of calcium carbonate. So when we talk about limestone, we're talking about calcium carbonate. Marble is also calcium carbonate, and even the chalk that we used to use in the past on boards, blackboards and so on in the past, these are calcium carbonate. Okay, calcium oxide is referred to as lime. So the common name, if he says, remember that each of these has a chemical name and a common name. So the chemical name for CaO is calcium oxide. The common name is lime. Now, calcium hydroxide is actually what we call lime water. So when we say test for carbon dioxide gas, it passes through lime water, it turns milky. What is lime water? It is calcium hydroxide solution. Also, calcium hydroxide is referred to as slaked lime. So the common name for calcium hydroxide is slaked lime. Okay, how do we prepare slaked lime from limestone? We're going to start from limestone. And we said limestone is calcium carbonate. And we want to end with slaked lime, which is calcium hydroxide. How do we do that? Limestone, which is calcium carbonate, breaks up when heated, or it decomposes thermally when heated to form calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. And we said that the calcium oxide is called lime. Now, when lime is dissolved in water, that forms calcium hydroxide. So we have something called a rotating kiln. It's a sort of a place where we're going to heat the limestone. We pass the limestone from one end, it breaks up, the carbon dioxide gas evolved, and we're left with the lime, and then this lime can be dissolved in water to form slaked lime. Okay, what are the uses of lime and slaked lime? Remember that both lime or slaked lime can be used to neutralize soil acidity. Remember that when we add fertilizers to soil, that makes the soil acidic, and when the soil is acidic, that's not good for growth of plants. So we need to add a base to neutralize the soil acidity. So usually we can add lime, which is calcium oxide, or slaked lime, which is calcium hydroxide. We also use them to neutralize the acidic industrial waste products, the substances coming out of factories that are acidic, for example sulfur dioxide, and we talked about that when we talked about flue gas desulfurization, in which we put calcium oxide or calcium hydroxide on the chimneys of the factory so that the acidic gases coming out are neutralized. Now, uses of limestone, we can say also that limestone is used for the same uses that lime and slaked lime are used. So actually limestone can also be used for neutralizing soil acidity, neutralizing acidic industrial waste products. But in addition to that, we use limestone, for example, in manufacture of iron. Remember when we were talking about extraction of iron in the blast furnace, we used limestone to remove impurities. We also use limestone in making cement. Okay? Now, to neutralize soil acidity, I can use either lime or limestone. But actually, limestone is better. Now, why is limestone better? First of all, because lime dissolves in water. Calcium oxide dissolves in water. Remember we said it dissolves in water to form calcium hydroxide. So when it dissolves in water, I'm putting it on the soil and I'm going to give the soil water for irrigation, then the lime will dissolve easily and it will be lost. But limestone does not dissolve in water, so it will not be easily lost. Another reason is that lime is basic. Basic means if I add too much of it, then it will make the soil basic. It will raise the pH of the soil. That also is not good. Remember that for plants to grow properly, the soil should not be acidic, and actually it should not be basic. It should be somewhere neutral. So if we add too much lime, the soil becomes too basic or higher, very high pH, while the limestone is neutral, so it will not increase the pH of the soil. Okay, so that's the chapter on carbon dioxide and carbonates. Please do the questions. Remember that these are very short chapters with very short questions, number of questions and things like that, but they are also important. Okay.